disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So one of the big red flags that came aftermath of COVID and what really revealed about the global tyrannical force that elevated itself during the COVID pandemic was how this is kind of an exercise to exercise their powers to overtrench individual nations. And they are planning to prep the next pandemic by drafting a treaty so that they can overpower sovereignty in other nations. This is from the WHO. And it says the WHO, the World Health Organization Pandemic Treaty draft reaffirms nation sovereignty to dictate health policy. So meaning that in the event of another medical emergency like we had with COVID, in the event that it happens, this grants the World Health Organization, Bill Gates, other investors, the corporatocracy of this global empire can then take over and dominate over nations, over their governments, over their legislator, and dictate for the rest of the population. It is beyond cartoonishly evil. It is beyond sinister. This is stuff you read in comic books where you hope that a Superman comes by and stops all this. And luckily, we've had some individual figures that are speaking out against this. And one of them is the Prime Minister of Slovakia, believe it or not. It says, as Prime Minister of Slovakia, I can tell you that we are going to look into these politicians and their meaningless purchases of medical devices and vaccines. Slovakia rejects the WHO pandemic treaty, and here's the Prime Minister, Robert Fico, or Fico, however you pronounce it. This is what he said about this, and let me turn this down. There's subtitles of this. So he says, if someone had a different opinion on vaccination against COVID, they were dangerous for society. The media wrote openly, I'm quoting now, that everyone unvaccinated should squeal in pain like a pig. In addition, you have to use force if someone rejects the policy of the needle. And today it turns out that our free perspective on past vaccination and the government's assistance to fight against COVID grossly violates human rights was correct and justified. One study after another, they confirmed the scandalous consequences of massive vaccination with untested experimental vaccines. Yes, I confirm as the chairman of the party, and I also committed as the Prime Minister that I will support the efforts of some politicians from the new government coalition to politically assess what was the government between 2020 and 2021 fooling around, and also have a look at the financial side of the expense. Often completely meaningless purchases of medical devices and vaccines. I also declare very clearly that SMER, the Slovakia Socialna Demokratika, I guess that's the Social Democratic Party, will not support strengthening the powers of the WHO at the expense of sovereign states in managing the fight against pandemics. I will say that with such nonsense could only be invented by greedy pharmaceutical companies, which began to perceive the opposition of some governments against mandatory vaccination. According to the Constitution of the Slovak Republic, the validity of such international agreements in favor of the World Health Organization requires the consent of the National Council of the Slavic Republic. And I do not believe that the sovereign Slavic political parties will express such approval. The SMER party and its MPs goes too fast. And its MPs certainly won't.
Ak otvorene
Once you
poviete,
openly say
že
that
treba
it's
radšej
better
roky
to
rokovať o
negotiate for
miery,
peace for
ako
years
roky nechať Slovanov navzájom sa
than to let the Slovaks kill each other over years with the sole aim of weakening of Russia. So now they're going to Russiagate, the Ukraine-Russia war.
zatíja s jediným cieľom oslabovať Rusko. Ak toto hovoríme,
When we say this, and it's
naozaj
really
to
not
doteraz
worked so
nefunguje,
far,
tak ste automaticky
you are
označovaní
automatically
za
labeled
agenta
as an
Kremľa.
agent of the
Ak
Kremlin.
otvorene
If
poviete,
you
že
openly
veľká
say
časť
that a large
finančnej a
part of
vojenskej pomoci
financial and
končí
military
v
aid
rozsiahlej
ends up in
korupcii na
widespread
Ukrajine,
corruption in
možno
Ukraine,
najväčšej
perhaps
korupcii
in
na
the biggest
svete,
corruption in
tak
the
vás
world,
označia za politicky
then you will be
nekorektného,
labeled
aj
not
keď máte
you as not politically correct, even if you are
pravdu.
right.
A vaši oponenti vedia, že
And your
hovoríte
opponents know that you are telling
absolútnu
the
pravdu.
absolute truth.
Pozastavenie
The
členstva
suspension of the
Smeru
membership of our
vo
party
strane európskych
in the party of the
socialistov
European
je len
socialists is
trestom
not only a
za našu
punishment of our
suverenitu
sovereignty
a
and
odvahu
courage
stáť
to
si za
stand up
vlastným
for our own
názorom.
opinion,
A hovorím to nahlas
and
pred
I
celým
say it
Slovenskom a
out
pred
loud
celým
in front of the
svetom.
whole world, in front of the whole Slovakian and the whole world.
Slovensku a pred celým svetom. Smer nie je
The party is not a tin rooster on a roof that turns like the wind and will never
plechový kohút
be.
na streche, ktorý sa otáča ako fúka vietor a nikdy
So that's the Prime Minister of Slovakia openly addressing and exposing how the global tyranny is capturing all these governments, and Slovakia is not lying down to this. Slovakia is not going to be played like this. And he's revolting against not only the pandemic treaty, but you just saw there, he's also revolting against the military-industrial complex in the focus of hurting Russia. He's saying that's ridiculous, that we're draining our country, that we're killing off our own people in the hopes of weakening Russia. And he knows it's not working. Because right now, Russia's economy is skyrocketing. The Brinks economic alliances are building up. The Russian ruble is skyrocketing compared to the US dollar, compared to our currencies. They're doing better off than we are. And he's calling it out. He's calling out the global efforts, the tyranny of the WHO, the WEF, the military-industrial complex, imperial leaders like Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau and the Western world, how they cultivize this global cabal to threatening, blackmail other nations to comply is sinister, it's evil, it's maniacal, and it's hurting the sovereignty, it's hurting the nations that are already struggling to begin with. And this Prime Minister of Slovakia is calling this all out. So kudos to that. Kudos to that. We need more revolutionaries like him. We need more leaders that are willing to stand up and fight for the people. Because we know it's not happening in our governments. We know it's not happening in the West. And sometimes you have to look across the pond and even further down the pond to finally see some actual courage, leadership from individuals that actually give a damn. Because that sounds like a leader, what a leader should be, is standing up for people against the tyranny of unaccountable, unelected officials at the top of the world that we have no control over.